Hi all. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. If you are new, welcome. My name is Amira. And today, guys, we are going to be talking about every single blush that I have tried so far in 2023. And it's a lot. Let's get into it. All right, gang. So I have here, I counted twice just to make sure. And we have, or I have rather, sitting in front of me, 12 blushes. It's a lot of blush. I went on a journey very similar to my concealer journey, but this one was different in the sense that I was just really into blush. I was really into blush the first 6 months of this year. I've kind of gotten it out of my system in the sense that I'm like, there are other blushes that I want to try, but I have more than enough product here to play with and to enjoy. And I don't know if I'm going to rank these. I did a concealer ranking. But for me, there are a couple of these that I've gotten less use out of than others. So I don't necessarily feel like it would be fair of me to rank them low just for that reason. And that would be the only reason at this point to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about them in categories. So I'm going to talk about powder blushes, then we're going to talk about cream blush, then we're going to talk about liquid blushes. So let's start off with powder. So let's talk about the first one that I purchased, and I've done a review on this already, and so I've given my thoughts pretty in depth about this, but I did want to talk about it because I was so pleasantly surprised by this. And this is the Too Faced Cloud Crush blush, and this is in the shade, I think this is, yeah, Candy Clouds. This is what it looks like. It's so bright and pretty. It's not as vibrant on my skin tone. I think it would look probably more vibrant on someone paler than me. It's not this bright on me, but it gives this really beautiful, like true pink type of flush to my cheeks that I really enjoy. Yeah, so for me, I think this is a beautiful formula. It's made me interested in trying other colors from this collection. I might eventually do that. I'm not going to do that right now. Like I said, I have a ton of product here. I don't really need to buy any more blushes for a very long time. But having said that, I do really love this formula and I really love this color. So I'm willing to eventually try, another one of these. And if they were like on super sale, I can't promise anything. I might pick one or two up just cuzzies, just cuz. Totally didn't realize I still had my glasses on. Like I felt them, but I'm just like, But I'm not wearing contacts. So looking at the camera and then the viewfinder, everything's a blur. So we'll see if I can get through this not wearing my glasses because I'm looking at the bottoms of things that are with very tiny writing. So we'll see. So next up in the powder category is the Pat McGrath Skin Fetish Divine Blush in the shade Divine Rose 3. Just this one here. And I picked this up when I picked up two of the bronzers that she released, the powder bronzers. So I believe this was part of the holiday collection. It came in one of the face palettes and she re-released it as a single, and I was really curious to try it because I really do love the tone of it. It kind of reminds me of, like, it falls right in between Desert Orchid and Paradise Venus, with maybe just a hint more pink. I think on someone of a lighter skin tone than me, this will read more pink. On me, this reads sort of kind of like a rusty coral. It's pretty. It's not my favorite of the colors that I have from her blush range. This is one of my favorite powder blushes. This formula is one of my favorites on the market, bar none. My all-time favorite blush, like in my entire collection, is the Divine Blush in Desert Orchid. So I have no complaints about the formula. The formula is perfect, as it always is. It's just that I don't think this is a color that I would necessarily reach for on a regular basis. I wanted to sort of see what that coral type of like pinky rosy tone from her would look like on me, because I don't own any of like her pinkier blushes. Like I own Desert Orchid, I own Paradise Venus, I own Electric Blue, which is the really vibrant orange tone. which I hardly ever wear because it's so vibrant, but I like having it. I like having it, you know. But this one was more on the pinky side, at least in the pan. On me, it does read a bit more, like I said, sort of a rusty tone. So I think if I were to try another one, I would have to go for something that is like really pink to really get the vibe that I was going for. But again, it's a pretty color. It's not my favorite color on me. From her range, I was looking for something a bit more pink toned, but again, the formulation is perfection. And then we have the Haus Labs Color Fuse Blush, and I have it in the shade Acai Sky, and that is the really rich, vibrant tone here. Now, this shade, I have not used this a ton because I bought it, and then I bought a bunch of other serum and liquidy type of blushes that I've just been into that type of formula more than powder. So this one kind of got forgotten about, but I will say this, it's incredibly pigmented. And like I say with the Pat McGrath blushes that are also very pigmented, this is one that I would recommend using a synthetic brush with. Like, if you want some control, modicum of control of application, a synthetic brush will pick up less product, and so you won't have this like explosion of pigment on your cheeks that you're then like working really hard to blend out. This is very similar in that way. I'm going to give this a bit more of a chance. I think I will probably get more use out of this color come the fall. This was the color that I was the most interested in, so I went ahead and picked it up, but it's not really a tone that I reach for a lot in the summer. It's just a little too deep, a little too rich. It's looking a bit brighter on camera, and if you guys can hear like cars and stuff, I have my fan on my window. I just like turn that on, you know, so it's not quite as loud, but you're gonna hear noise because it's really hot today, and I don't want to be sweating on camera. I'm sorry. I love you guys, but I don't love anybody that much to be sweating on camera. I'm sorry. But yeah, so this is a beautiful tone, and I think I will get more use out of it in the fall. The formula, again, I haven't played with it enough to have really formed like concrete thoughts about in that way. I feel like it reminds me a lot of the Pat McGrath in the way that it applies, though, hence my suggestion of using a synthetic brush. And then we have the cream to powder shade from Half Magic Beauty. I have the shade, it's the Cheek Fluff in the shade Only Drama. I still haven't taken these out of the little containers yet. But this is what it looks like. And if you saw my review I did like a brand review of Half Magic Beauty, I was not a huge fan of this tone on me, and I wasn't a huge fan of the formula. And my suspicion was that the tones that are a bit more neutral leaning, there's a tone called Magic Brownie that I have the lipstick version of as well, that I think I would probably get along with more. I have a feeling that the formulation of this does not lend itself to these type of really deep, rich shades. Also, I feel like when this blended out, and I've been wanting like a really nice purple toned blush, and I've been trying sort of shades of purple and plummy tones to see if I could find something that really works for me. This one just looked like a bruise on my cheeks, and I've tried it a couple of times with different brushes. I've tried synthetic, I've tried natural. I just was not a fan of how this shade looked on me. I just felt like I looked bruised on the cheeks, and purple doesn't generally look like that on me. It doesn't translate like that. Usually a purple will translate as a pink on me, or will translate as like a plum. This just looked like somebody had punched me in my cheeks a couple times, or I punched myself in the cheeks a couple times. It wasn't flattering. So for me, I mean, if I were to rank all four of these powder blushes, this would be at the bottom. Not probably, this would be at the bottom. And then I would say Haus Labs would be next. And then actually, I'm going to switch these. I would actually put this one after. So we'll go like this. Let me rank them. Let's do this. So I would say this one is number 1 for color and formulation, because that's the criteria here, color and formulation. I just love this tone on me, and I love the formulation. This one, I feel like I will love this in the fall. This color, but the formulation, even though I haven't used it a ton, the vibe, it gives me Pat McGrath blush vibes, and that is, again, like one of my favorite formulations. But then we have this Pat McGrath one, which is Divine Rose 2, or 3 rather, and I don't hate the formulation. It's one of my favorite formulas. I just don't love the shade on me. And then finally, last is the Cheek Fluff and Only Drama, because I didn't like the color and I didn't like the formulation. So this one for me was at the bottom as far as the powder, cream to powder blush. All right, now let's get into serum and liquid blushes. And most of these that are sitting in front of me are serum and liquid blushes, with the exception of one, which I will talk about last because I've had it for the shortest amount of time that I've had any of these other ones. I am wearing it today. I'm enjoying it, but we're not going to get into it because I do have some thoughts on that. So first up, let's start with these two bad boys. So I had never tried the M Cosmetics serum blushes, the ones that made the brand popular. I was scared off by the issues with the components that everyone was having with the droppers, and then they had supposedly changed the components so that the droppers would be easier to use. Some people were still had issues with them, but I was very intrigued because I had last summer purchased my first two of the powder blushes, which have become one of my favorite blush formulas. Is the powder, the baked powder blush. They are so nice, and so it just piqued my interest more in trying something else from the brand in the blush category. So when they had a sale on the ColourDrop serum blush, I picked up two, and I picked up the shade Venetian Rose, and then I picked up the shade Little Lilac. Now this is falling into that category of me trying to find blushes that were of that purple lavender lilac tone and finding one that I really enjoyed as far as the color. Of the two, this is the one I've used the least. This one I knew I was gonna love. I just knew it. It's my kind of tone, and I was really shocked by how pigmented these are. And I've tried to apply them a bunch of ways. I've tried them with a blush brush. I've tried them with my hands, my fingers. I've tried it with a sponge. I will say the way that I enjoy applying this formula the most is with my fingers or with a blush brush. I felt like a sponge kind of did that thing where if you apply it over your foundation, it kind of picked up both products, you know, what was underneath on top of the color, and it just didn't give me as even an application. I felt it was a bit patchy. This applies beautifully with fingers. You really, like I said, these are so pigmented. I would just take a couple of drops. I will say this, note about the component. I remember people rumblings when they had fixed the component and people were like, no, the component is still crap. It's still crap. It's still crap. I don't love the component. It takes a good amount of like dipping and like trying to squeeze the product out. And I know they have like instructions and all that, and I'm just like, I shouldn't have to have instructions to apply blush. Like that's, you know, as far as how to use the component, that's just kind of silly to me. But the product makes up for that inconvenience. And so I just apply a little, as much as I can on my, get on my back of my hand. I just apply a couple of drops on my face and I pat it out. Or I then take a brush, a synthetic brush usually, and I will just dip it in and then I'll apply it all over, and you get a beautiful application, very pigmented. So I think it does take a little trial and error to figure out how much pigment you're comfortable with. I love a heavy blush look, so for me, I'm quite happy just like going as is, you know. Little Lilac, I do really like. It's just not as wearable a shade as Venetian Roses. As you can see, like I just feel like this goes with so many things, so many looks, so many eye looks. I could be wearing this today and it would be perfect. Little Lilac is sort of like a fun shade that I wear every now and then, but I like having it in my collection because I do enjoy the way it looks. It's not purpley on me. It is more of like a vibrant pink. But that's okay. I'm not mad at it. It's a really beautiful formulation, and I get what the hype was all about with these. I also get what the hype was about with the Rare Beauty. What is this called? It's the Pinch? I think it's called the Pinch liquid blush. I get what the hype is about the Rare Beauty liquid blushes. I get what people are talking about with how pigmented these are and how little product you need, because that is very true. Two drops, maybe 1.5 on either side will do you just fine. Again, I do find that for me, this applies very similarly to the M Cosmetics. Like I feel like it applies better with fingers or a brush. I don't love the way it looks with a sponge. I have the shade Virtue. I think it's really pretty. It's not quite as muted as I feel like it looks in the tube. It's a bit more, what's the word? It's got like a bit more depth to it, a bit more oomph to it. It looks a bit richer on my skin. I'm not mad at it. I do enjoy it. I think I would like to try one of the lighter tones though of her blush range, because now that I know how pigmented they apply, I feel like most of them probably apply darker than they look in the tube. That's just kind of my feeling, my instinct about this. So I enjoy the shade. I like the formula. I would be willing to try another one of these. Next up is the Kulfi Mindy Moment Blush, and I have the shade Sandalwood Swirls. This is one that I haven't gotten a ton of use out of, and the reason for that is not that I had so many blushes so much so that I had so many blushes, and when I tried this the first 2 times, I was not that impressed. So having like these blushes here that I was really enjoying using, so having this blush that I wasn't that impressed with the first 2 times I wore it, and then having blushes that I was enjoying wearing made me reach for this less. Now this is the issue with this. I think this is beautiful. It applied beautifully. I didn't have a lot of issues with it. I do find that it is it kind of just feels very, it's kind of like a serum, but not. I was hoping that this would be a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? A bit more unique in tone. That it looks more unique in tone on the models on on Sephora than I felt like it looks actually on my skin. The biggest issue for me with this blush, and I'm just going to blend it out so you can see what it looks like. I mean, it's a terracotta blush, you know, on me. That's kind of the way it looks. The issue for me with this blush is that it didn't last on me. I wore it twice, and both times halfway through my workday, it was just gone. I tried applying it with a brush. I had tried applying it with my fingers. I set my face. I didn't set my face. It just fades on me. So that for me is a bummer. I don't want to sort of like get halfway through my workday and my my blushes like disappeared. I don't think that's unreasonable to at least want it to last the workday, you know. So for me, that was the main issue that I had with this. Again, I don't think the shade is bad. I will say I purchased these around the same time, and they give me very similar finishes on my skin, but this is a better formula. So for me, it's sort of like, well, what am I going to reach for? I'm going to reach for this one. I'm going to reach for this one. Well, I'm going to reach for this. So yeah, that's my feeling about this one. I just was kind of underwhelmed with the formula itself. Next up we have, and this is probably the one that I've used the least, and there's a reason for that. It's nothing to do with the formula though. Okay, so a friend of mine who runs the Instagram account So Does Makeup sent me this Juvia's Place liquid blush and Sweet Berries, and I had my eye on this tone because I was in my purple phase, and I was like, that looks stunning. I really want that, and it was literally in my cart on Ulta, and she sent it to me, and I was just like, thanks, boo. I was so excited to get it, guys. This is not my shade. It's so pigmented and it's so dark, and I was like, well, I can blend that out. It's so dark, and I feel like on someone with deep skin tone, oh, this is gonna look, oh my god, this is such a beautiful shade. I think the shade for me, I've looked at the range again, and I'm like, I really want to get more use out of this. I literally put this on my skin, and I was just like, I was trying to blend it out. This is so pigmented. I mean, look at this. It's like stained this is so pigmented. It's almost like a stain. And for me, trying to blend this out was just like, you know. So I haven't had that much use out of this because I just couldn't get this shade to work for me, and I was frankly afraid to even continue to try. I really want to try the formula because the shade range is beautiful. There's a shade, and I think it's the shade that Angelica was trying. It's that really pretty like orange shade. that one I could rock with. So I think the issue for me with this is just simply that this this is not my shade. It's too dark for me. And I don't know what I was thinking that I could wear that shade. But I was feeling clearly I was like, oh, I can make it work. I can make it work. No, girl. No, you can't. It took some elbow grease to get that off my hand, and my finger is still stained. Okay. Last but not least, in the sort of liquid serum category are the two NARS. I think these are called the Afterglow Liquid Blush. Now, I have Wanderlust, which is the like lilac-y tone that I honestly just haven't gotten a lot of use out of. Again, it's one of those shades that it's like the little lilac shade from them. It's a shade that I know I wasn't going to be wearing every day, but that I was interested in, and it gives me very much that same vibe. Now, for me though, y'all, do you see how this blends out? I just feel like it's so sheer, like, and it went on very patchy. And at first I was like, is it me? Is it me? Am I the problem? I don't know. So then I was like, well, I'm going to try Behave. And I got Behave. Now, Behave, look, y'all, much like how I was with the Juvia's Place shade, I got this shade. And I was like, it's kind of light, but I'm going to see. Because I'm just an explorer that way when it comes to makeup tones, because there have been a lot of tones that I thought would be too light or be too dark that worked for me. So for me, I'm willing to take the risk and try a shade that might not work, because I've had such success doing that, taking a chance. But you also, you know, set yourself up for failure. And so that's what I did with this shade, because it's really pretty. It's really pretty until I keep blending, and you blend it and you blend it, and it's just kind of like almost not there anymore. Like, it's there, but on my face, and this is on my hand. Keep in mind that my hand is a little bit lighter than my face, especially once I have bronzer and things like that on. Like, if I was just putting this on my bare skin, or like my skin with nothing else on it besides my foundation, I could probably get it to show up. But I have bronzer on, I have things like that on, and that's my routine. I'm not going to change my routine to make one product work. That's just not the vibe we're going for here. So for me, I'm gonna get use out of these. I'm gonna keep playing with them, but I was kind of disappointed, guys. I really was. And again, maybe it's an issue of shade choice, but a lot of the other shades are just shades that I already own, or shades that I'm like, I already own those shades, and I already own them in formulas that I love. So that's why I wanted to get something that was a little outside the box. So I got, you know, Wanderlust, and I got Behave. On top of that, I just felt like they applied so patchily. And for something that is a serum that is so light, to have it apply patchy is just kind of like, that's how I feel about these guys. I just feel, and last but not least, in the balm category is the latest drop from Mother Pat. I just got one thing, y'all. I just got one thing. I was like, I'm not buying a bunch of stuff. I got enough blushes. I was like, maybe there's one or two shades? No, I got one. And I got the shade Sunkissed Seduction, which is that beautiful, rich, like terracotta tone. And that is what I'm wearing today. Is she not stunning? Now, I've had a journey with this, because the first time I tried it, I flat out hated it. I was like, what the? I was like, no, Mother Pat, don't do this to me. Because I applied it on my hand first, and I was just so like, when you apply it on your hand, it feels like nothing. And I was just like, then I was like, Mary, you just wash it on your hand. Don't be like that. Try it on your face. So the first time I tried it on my face, I was like, better than on the hand. Second time, I was like, I tried it with a brush, and I was like, okay. I've now worn this about 4 or 5 times, and the more I use it, the more I like it. I found that, again, using a synthetic angled brush, I love a good angled brush for blush application and concealer, or bronzer application. I love that for cream and balm type products, like bronzers and blushes, in that category, that bronze, you know, that kind of balmy, creamy Texture works really well with the slanted, angled synthetic brush because you get control. That's how I apply. I've been applying this. That's how I applied it today. I'm wearing it today, like I said, and I'm just. It's like one of those products. Pat knows how to do complexion. She knows how to do complexion. She is Pat McGrath for a reason, you know. And you know, people like to talk a lot of ish about her brand and her, you know, price point and her customer service, and that's all valid. But you cannot argue the quality. Look at the material. It's there. And I was shook that I fell in love with this after not liking it the first time. Like, and the fact that I'm like reaching for it, going, oh, you know what, I'm going to use that. Oh, I'm going to use that. And like I said, her powder formula is one of my favorite blush powder formulas. Her shade Desert Orchid is my favorite blush of all time. So I shouldn't have been surprised. I should have trusted the process. I'm glad that I kept giving this another chance because it's beautiful. And what I like is that it does give this really natural finish, but it doesn't feel overly dewy on the skin, which I will admit that this, like the M Cosmetics one, do feel very dewy and wet on the skin, you know. This does not. So if I'm going to rank all of these serum blushes that I have, I will rank them this way. We'll go from bottom to top. So at the bottom, well, at the bottom are these, which I'm really sad about. Again, I do want to keep trying these. I own them. I spent my money on them. I'm not decluttering them yet. I'm not due for another declutter. I mean, technically I'm due for a declutter now. I usually do 2 declutters a year, but I don't know if I'm going to do a mid-year declutter. I might. I don't know. I go through phases. I'm like, I have to look at my collection, and if I'm feeling like I just need to like thin the herd a bit, I might go ahead and do a mid-year one. But we're in July already, and I haven't really felt the felt compelled to. So I might just be doing an end-of-year one. But in the meantime, I'm gonna hold on to these. I'm gonna try to get some use out of them. This is just the reason why I'm trying to do these on a like semi-monthly basis, so that I kind of have the video diary for myself of my thoughts on these products, because it's very easy to sort of like forget, you know, your thoughts, especially if it's a product that you didn't like and then you just don't touch very often. So these are at the bottom as of now. Followed by the Kufi. The Kufi, honestly, I was originally going to do it this way. They can go either way. This does not last on me. But these are patchy and don't really apply that great. So it's like pick your poison. So for me, I'm going to rank these last, followed by the Kufi. And then I'm going to rank the Juvia's Place, not for any other reason other than this is just not my shade. This is not my shade. This isn't my shade. It's not my shade. Then I will go with the Rare Beauty. I like this. I think it's a good product, but I'm not like obsessed with it. You know, I know a lot of people are really obsessed with these blushes. I found that I was like, I agreed with people. I'm like, yes, it's pigmented. It blends well. The color's pretty. You don't have to use a lot of product. It's pigmented. I like all of that is true, but I wasn't like, oh my God, this is amazing. I was like, this is a really nice and solid liquid blush. At the top spot is going to be these two and this one specifically. I get the hype about this formula. I really do. And I really have enjoyed using specifically this one and this one on those days when I want something a little more fun and, you know, vibrant on my skin. But this is such a good everyday liquid blush. And this one's just standing alone on its own. I don't have a lot of these type of blushes. This is really one of the first products of this type that I own, this kind of like balm stick type of blush product. So I can't really rank this other than to say that of all of these, if I were to throw this in with these liquid blushes, I would say that it will come second to the M. So it will come before the Rare Beauty. That's kind of how I would do the ranking if I were going to throw this in. But I just feel like it's comparing different formulations, and oftentimes it's just not fair to the product to do that. But yes, that is how I would rank the Serum blushes, and my One Lonely Little Balm. Alright guys, so those are all the blushes that I've tried so far in 2023, which is a lot. I am not planning on buying any more blushes. If something amazing comes out that I'm just like, oh my god, I have to have it, I'm not going to be like, I'm not buying that, but I'm not checking for the blushes at the mo. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm solid. It's kind of how I feel about concealer after my concealer journey. I just feel like I have enough. Let me know in the comments down below, you guys, how you feel about these blushes. Do you own any of these? What are some of your favorite blushes that you tried so far in 2023? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to hit the like button, and I will see you guys in the next one.